In a hall of Containment Wing Beta, Response Team Echo began setting up to deal with the crisis in Cell 017. A red warning light spun overhead, letting any and all personnel know that this area was on high alert. Armed guards kept watch at the entrances and exits to the hall, as well as by the doors of other containment cells. Several researchers and staff passed through, one swiping her card on a door's reader and going into a cell with a trolley filled with meat. Although it was essential to secure the area in the event of a containment breach, of equal importance was the proper containment of other objects in the vicinity. What utter irony it would be for one containment breach to occur because the efforts of preventing a breach interfered with another object's containment. It was for this reason that Response Team Echo operated with optimum efficiency, maintaining the least presence necessary to complete their duties. At present, Maintenance Technician Swinburne was in the process of suiting up, pulling a reflective bodysuit up to his torso. A real-life technician was required for this task. Usually, lighting fixtures could be replaced from the back or sides, but SCP-017's containment cell was bordered on multiple sides by other SCP objects, whose containment procedures left no available space for even a crawl area. Standing by were backup technicians in the event that Swinburne was unable to complete the task appointed to him. On the ground was a very large, high-intensity arc lamp bulb, with 3 others in their packaging nearby. Also on site was a portable generator, to which were hooked up several standing lamps of nearly the same intensity as their cousins on the floor. These were positioned such that, in complement with the overhead lighting, set to maximum brightness, the area was wholly illuminated, each person barely casting any shadow. Next to Swinburne was Dr. Martel, lead researcher assigned to SCP-017. As Swinburne struggled with the suit, Martel gave a last-minute briefing. No cupping your hands, no walking with your legs too close together, and remember to keep your fingers loose and apart. Swinburne pulled his right arm into the sleeve of the suit. Walk in a shuffling motion. At no point should you raise your feet. Even with a room as bright as it is, a foot, even a centimeter above the ground, is likely to cast a minute shadow.
Roger.
The left arm went next. Carry the package away from your body at chest level. The lamps are designed to be incredibly easy to replace. Pop out the recessed trim on the spotlight, unscrew the old bulb, and screw the new one in. After installation, the new unit will return to full brightness in just under a second. The bulbs are hot, but you shouldn't have to worry. Your suit is insulated well enough. And we keep that frosty to prevent other bulbs from overheating.
Got it.
And most importantly, be aware of your body movements. There are lamps recessed into the floor of the containment room, with just enough spacing to move through without blocking them. Slow, deliberate movements are key here. The suit is reflective enough that a slight interference with the lamp's beams should be relatively safe. But we're obviously not in the business to take those chances. You don't need to tell me that. Swinburne zipped shut the mask to the neck portion, noting that even the zipper and slider were coated with ultra-reflective chromium. He adjusted the mask so that the eyepieces lined up perfectly. The eyepieces were made of highly tinted, very dark lenses that appeared contiguous with the rest of the suit. He pushed his earpiece deeper into his ear, a piece connected to a radio with a voice-activated switch, which completely eliminated the need to touch anything. With that, he was done, fully suited up, ready to go in. Martel gave him one last look over and nodded.
Alright. There's nothing else to say except get in, get out, and good luck.
The two shook hands, and Swinburne carefully picked up the replacement bulb. Martel went to the door to 017 and began the process of opening it. A primary swipe access card, followed by a biometric palm scanner, a retina scan, and a voice recognition system. If any of these failed, access would be denied unless overwritten by one of the facility's deputy directors or higher. After a moment, the light blinked over the door green. Access granted. Dr. Martel pulled open the door and nodded one last time. Swinburne stepped into the cell, which was actually an elevator. The real containment area was below. Martel closed the door, the hermetic seal making a hiss sound as it closed up. And then Swinburne was moving down. Swinburne, like most level 2 technicians, knew he was replaceable. It came with the territory. Though obviously not as knowledgeable as about the SCP objects contained at Area 12 as other personnel, he knew two things: how to perform necessary maintenance on a variety of the containment zones at Area 12, and how to keep his mouth shut. Prior to the employment by the Foundation, he had served as a combat engineer in the army. He was used to the chain of command, taking orders, and especially the impending sense of danger. He'd served 2 tours in Afghanistan, earning an Army Commendation Medal and a Purple Heart. The legs still hurt like a bitch sometimes. This was, of course, before he selected as a special candidate for something called the Foundation. Back then, he'd had no idea what the word would come to mean. But he passed the evals and qualifications, ending up among only 3 other such individuals. Of course, the Foundation had to reveal some of its nature before signing on potential valuable personnel. A level 2 tech was a far greater asset to the Foundation than a handful of level 0 service personnel, and especially more valuable than a Class D, although they were useful in their own right. So when Swinburne had heard of anomalous materials, special containment procedures, and the need to secure, contain, and protect, he'd been intrigued. Not particularly religious, he still possessed a mite of wonderment about things. The world was interesting, and a chance to be part of an organization that revealed just how interesting was not an opportunity he was willing to pass up. That, and refusal of the Foundation's offer, came under penalty of amnestics and total relocation. So he'd accepted. As it so happened, nothing could really have prepared him for the reality of the Foundation. He'd seen things he wouldn't have believed possible. Things that no person could ever have dreamed of. Of course, he knew it was better that way.
To disrupt the status quo of the outside world with knowledge it was not prepared for would be disastrous. Although some of the things the Foundation kept contained were disastrous to begin with. For instance, this object, SCP-017. Swinburne had read the file on it. It being composed of seemingly smoke or shadow that could completely eradicate anything that cast a shadow upon it. Things like that were horrifying in fiction. But to know that they actually existed and being kept under lock and key by some para-government agency, it was almost too much to comprehend. No wonder the Foundation scheduled so many regular psychological checkups. The lift reached the bottom of the shaft. In front of Swinburne stretched a small corridor with high-powered lamps set onto the floor, ceiling and walls. Even with a thick, insulated suit on, Swinburne was cold. Martel hadn't been lying when he said they kept it frosty. It must have been -6°C, though that was probably a good thing. So many lights operating around the clock were likely prone to overheating and potential failure. The Foundation always did everything possible to prevent such a thing from occurring. At the end of the corridor was a glass door with a glass handle, the kind of doors you see in supermarkets. Swinburne took a deep breath, swallowed hard, then used his knee to push open the door into the main containment chamber for SCP-017. The entire room was bathed in brilliant white light, emanating from every possible surface. There must have been hundreds of high-powered, incandescent bulbs in the 6-meter cubed area. Swinburne thought it was a godsend that the Foundation had the resources to keep these sort of facilities operating. He looked up and saw the clear plastic suspension chamber in the chamber of the room that contained 017 itself. A small perspex box, maybe the size of a safe. Huddled against one of the transparent walls was a childlike figure. A perfect dark blot against the blinding light in the rest of the chamber. It was completely immobile and looked, for all intents and purposes, harmless. Though anyone who had clearance to perform maintenance on Cell 017 would know better. Inside the suit, and despite the cold, a bead of sweat rolled down Swinburne's forehead. He forced himself to maintain composure. The slightest misstep or error would cost him his life. He had seen combat before, in the army, but that was under different terms. A man shooting a bullet into your body is natural, acceptable. This was anomalous. Swinburne squinted, scanning the bright room to locate the blown out bulb. It was on the opposite side of the room, just about waist height. Thank God it hadn't been one of the bulbs in the ceiling. Slowly, being careful not to step in front of any lights unnecessarily, he made his way across the room. Despite his training, his army experience, every terror he had ever experienced, this really took the cake. Swinburne could feel his heart hammering in his chest. His body broke out in a sweat, and his mouth withered like an African drought. Each step he took closer to his destination was one step closer to potential oblivion at the hands of the thing suspended above him. He wanted to look up, make sure that it wasn't moving or reacting. But he forced himself to keep moving ahead. Bulb held out of his hands in front of him, every motion calculated so as not to create a single shadow.
What's your status, Swinburne?
Martel's voice in his ear gave him a start. He kept steady hands on the bulb and took the final few steps to the blown out bulb. I'm at the blowout now. Everything's optimal so far. No activity on 017.
Good. You know what to do if there's any change in the situation.
Roger. The line went silent. Swinburne knew that to change the blowout, he had to be blocking several of the containment lamps. This wasn't a problem though. There were enough lamps in the room, coupled with the high reflectivity of the suit, to ensure that no shadows would be cast. Swinburne bent down and used his hands to pry out the recessed trim around the bulb. A circular trim coated with chromium. Carefully, he set it down on the ground and started to unscrew the blown out bulb. Initially, the bulb refused to move. But after a few good clockwise twists, it started to come out. A shiver ran down Swinburne's spine, thinking of the thing to which his back was turned. After a few more twists, the old bulb was released. He set it next to the chromium trim and began to screw in the new bulb. For those precious few moments of counterclockwise screwing, only one thought passed through Swinburne's head. Please God, please God, please God, work, don't fail, please God. And then the new bulb was glowing bright, causing Swinburne to squint. He popped the trim back into place, took the old bulb, and headed back towards the lift. Only once did he glance back up at 017, hanging in its place in the suspension chamber. As always, it was immobile, but all the same, another shiver passed through Swinburne's body. When he was back into the lift and it was moving up, away from the mad chamber holding a monster, Swinburne collapsed, slinking against the wall of the lift and fighting back great heaving sobs. He managed to stand up and compose himself before the lift opened out into the hall of Containment Wing Beta. Swinburne pulled the zipper down on his suit and pulled off the face mask, sucking in great gulps of air. He gave Dr. Martel and the other members of Response Team Echo a thumbs up. Dr. Martel nodded and spoke into a walkie-talkie.
System malfunction rectified. Stand down. Threadcon Omega. Repeat. Stand down. Malfunction rectified.
After a moment, the flashing hazard light shut off. Over the PA system, a voice declared,
"Attention, all personnel. Threadcon in Containment Wing Beta has been set to neutral. All personnel are to return to their duties as normal. Repeat. Threadcon in Containment Wing Beta."
Martel walked over to Swinburne and clapped him on the shoulder.
"Good work, Lloyd. Come on, let's go get some coffee at the canteen.
White Swinburne nodded, feeling more drained than he'd ever been. As the two men walked down the hall, the message on the loudspeaker continued to play. Response team Echo dispersed and went back to standby. And researchers and staff went about their duties in Containment Wing Beta as if nothing had happened.